Another big day. A lot of work, as usual. A lot of voices to be heard. Lots of shit that I should be talking about, but I'll bite my lip today. It's not easy. Listen to this. Let's get right into it. I just had a big dinner and I'm starting to melt and relax like you wouldn't believe. I don't know what time it is. 7 o'clock in the evening. Steve, I found your channel a few weeks ago, and I became a faithful follower and binge watcher since. I want to share what happened to myself and others on a cold winter night in western Pennsylvania. A little background about me. I lived in the Laurel Highlands region of southwestern PA. I hunted and fished from a young age, and as a teenager would often come home from school on a Friday, grab a bedroll, a pack full of food and water, a knife, a hatchet, a compass, and fire starter, and head out into the woods with a group of friends. Of course, I would leave a note on the kitchen table reading, "In the woods, be back Sunday." I grew up on the TV show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and was fascinated with strange stuff like Bigfoot, UFOs, and ghosts. I've seen UFOs multiple times, and our family had a poltergeist that lived with us in one of our houses. That's creepy. Sounds a little familiar, maybe. At least he was friendly, and just liked to prank us. I've also encountered less friendly entities, not fun. As a kid, my sister had worked for the Pennsylvania Game Commission and had stories of how some of her co-workers refused to go to certain spots in the mountains due to strange lights, sounds, and encounters. I've never had a bad encounter in the woods, but had seen some weird things, heard strange sounds, and had that feeling of being watched. Anyway, on to my story. It was a cold, snowy night in January or February of 1990. My girlfriend and I were hanging out watching movies with our friend Chris and his girlfriend at his house. At around 8 p.m., we got a call from our friend Dave asking if he wanted to come over and hang at his house. Sure, why not? Dave lived around 3 miles away by road, but only around 1.5 if we walked through the woods. We decided to walk because, although it was a cold night, it was mostly clear, with light snow and a quarter moon, so we had good visibility to move through the woods. We bundled up and headed down the paved road towards the wooded area and trail we used to traverse between our houses. The area was a lot of cornfields and cattle pastures bordered with heavily wooded areas. A few miles down the road was a large lake that was a state recreational area. We could have taken another shortcut through some cornfields, but some farmers were shoot with no warning for trespassing. Birdshot doesn't feel nice when it's stuck in your shoulder. Ask me how I know. No shit. That's pretty crazy, eh? You're allowed to just blast somebody if they're standing on your property. We turned off the road, across a small field, into the woods, to a trail that we knew by heart. The trail led out to a gas well service road, went through the woods, and emerged at a main road and clearing. As we went into the woods, Chris led our little column with his girlfriend, then my girlfriend, then me as tail and Charlie. As we got deeper in, it got very quiet. No sound at all. Nothing but the sound of our footsteps crunching through the snow. The hair on my body suddenly went stiff as wire. I'd heard other footsteps deeper in the woods parallel to ours. Chris had heard them too and stopped. The footsteps stopped too. "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Sure did," he replied. "Let's keep going." As we started walking again, the footsteps resumed. It was a heavy gait, and you could almost feel them. Chris stopped again, we stopped, and the footsteps stopped. Excuse me. "What the F?" I asked. Chris said, "I don't know, but I'm going to go check it out, stay with the girls." He was showing a bravado in front of his girl. I could see he was scared. We told the girls the plan, noting their objections, and Chris headed out into the woods towards where the footsteps had come from. I didn't like this one bit. We were mostly unarmed except for our knives. Chris had a K-bar combat knife, and I had an antler-handled hunting knife that my grandfather had made me when I was 9. I felt like if we met whatever it was, it wouldn't be nearly enough. We stood in the dark listening as Chris moved through the woods away from us. Both girls were shit scared. My girl was crying and shaking. I can't say I wasn't either. That's pretty scary. I mean, that's pretty scared. Suddenly we heard Chris scream, "Run!" and heard him start running through the woods. I shoved the girls forward, screaming, "Go, go, go!" They started screaming. I could hear those heavy footfalls start up faster this time. We cleared out of the trees and onto the well road. "Go left! Left, go left!" I yelled, and we started running down the road. Chris burst out of the brush about 10 yards ahead of us onto the road, and he was screaming, "Holy F! Run, run, run!" We bolted down the road, running flat out. I could see the light from the street lamp at the main road. From our woods to the left, we could hear footfalls, the breaking trees, and the grunting. I remember thinking to myself, we're not going to make it. It seemed like the road was getting longer, stretching out in front of us. Take note of that. Maybe my fear was playing tricks in my mind, or was it real? I don't know. It effing felt real. We finally reached the clearing that met the road and sprinted toward the street lamp and perceived safety. A gate blocked the road access, and we had to climb over it. As we started climbing over, a scream that pierced my soul erupted behind us. I can't even describe the sound. At the edge of the clearing, just outside the light thrown by the lamp, was a large black form. It was pacing back and forth across the well road, its eyes never leaving us. Those eyes glowing red like taillights on a car in the distance. Those eyes met mine, and I felt the purest malevolence and hatred that I've ever felt directed towards me. I knew that that thing wanted to kill us. It was death. No doubt in my mind. After it seemed like eternity, I broke the gaze and climbed the fence to the road. "What the F is that?" my girlfriend screamed. Chris said, "I don't know, and we're not going to find out." We ran the half a mile or so to Dave's house and pounded on his door, screaming to let us in. After piling inside, we locked the door and told Dave to grab his gun. We were hysterical, out of breath, and out of our minds. He returned with a 12-gauge pump loaded with slugs. He kept asking what happened, and after about 30 minutes we related the story. Dave being Dave, he immediately wanted to go see if he could find it. "Yeah, good effing luck," I said. "If you do go, you go by yourself, and you might want to get in your dad's safe and get one of his spring bags." I'd go belted. Bringbacks or springbags? Dave's dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam and had a very nice collection of toys he'd managed to bring back with him. After that, he relented. We called Chris's dad to come pick us up and had a silent ride back to Chris's house. His dad asked us what had happened, as we were all showing signs of trauma. We told him nothing, but I'm pretty sure he could tell it was terrifying. He was a non-vet too, he had seen some shit. We stayed the night, but I didn't feel safe until the sun rose. Chris's house sat on the edge of the woods. We never spoke of that night again amongst ourselves, but I've told the story a few times to others. Most people look at me like I'm crazy and just making shit up. I'm pretty sure a story I made up wouldn't give me terrifying nightmares over 30 years later and haunt me every time I set into the woods. No doubt. I live in Florida now, and I have a girlfriend who loves to spend time in the woods together. I've told her the story, and she knows that I don't lie. She accepts that I had something terrible happen to me. We hike the Florida Trail in the Ocala and Seminole State Forests, and sometimes do overnight camping when our work schedules permit. Excuse me. I insist that we are armed, both of us carrying full-size 40 cal handguns with spare magazines, and she's okay with that. We do have bears, and we encountered a few, and that's my excuse. I don't feel scared, but my senses are always amped up to 10. Head on a swivel, ears open. I've had the feeling of being watched and have not felt any ill will. It is true, though, that once you've encountered one, you are never the same. Absolutely agreed. Sorry for the long story, but I needed to tell it. Feel free to use my name. I couldn't care less about what anybody thinks of me. Ep 'em all. I'll proudly take my place at the round table of knowledge. Keep fighting the good fight, and thanks for all you do. Robert Lockhart, Central Florida. I think I may have read that. I'm not certain. But a lot of stories are really similar, obviously. Right? How couldn't they be? That's scary, man. And there we go. I just had to comment on that the other night, right? About the somebody asking me how I feel about them hating us or not, or how they feel towards us. And there you go. There's another person who experienced the absolute hatred towards them from the thing with the red glowing eyes, and absolutely convinced 100% that the thing wanted to kill him. But here's what we do know. If the being wanted your ass, he would have had it. All of them. All of you. So, what's going on? Is it absolute frustration that they can't cross that line? Or some of them. Whatever these are, whoever they are, whoever they answer to, whoever punishes them, and who created the hatred towards us. Right? There's a lot of questions there. That is a question I never really think about out loud. Who created the absolute hate and disgust towards us for them? Why can't they cross the line and pop our heads off? We've heard a handful of people tell why, but it's always good to get lots of input. Always. I could never hear a solid answer from one person who I feel is legit and may have a relationship going on communicating with beings, because I don't know who it is they are talking to. I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue if they're being misled. I don't know. Are they being manipulated? I don't know. Are they actually talking to something that is very trustworthy? I don't know. So I need to hear from everybody, not just one person. One person's knowledge is not going to be, it's going to be pretty good. As long as I know who they are, I know them, I trust them in my life, and my gut screams green light. But one person isn't going to do it for me. I do not jump on any bandwagons. I need to hear from as many people in the world as frickin' possible. I don't give a shit what your credentials are. You kidding me? Western education? I don't give a shit what education you have. I don't care. All I care about is a good, honest human being looking me in the eye, squared right up to me, telling me the honest truth of what they have learned, seen, heard, smelled, felt, etc. Right? We need to hear from each other. That's the only way. And as many people as possible to bring up those in-your-face patterns. Anyway, here we go. No title of this email. You may say my name, and it is Jacob Cahoon. I work for the Forest Service in wildland fire and in trails maintenance. This was in northern Arizona and northern Utah. And I've spent a lot of time in the woods and desert outside of work. Oddly enough, my experiences were in the desert of southern Arizona. The location is a place we named the Oasis. It is outside of Mesa, Arizona. We'd ride dirt bikes in the desert and then cool off in the water. It had thick vegetation and trees surrounding the whole pond. There's a big rock we jumped off and even made a rope swing. Good times growing up there as we did. The best part is that it was a real honey hole for fishing. There are 3 species of bass, catfish, bluegill, carp, and even turtles. But there are some odd things about the location as well. There is a sacred mountain to the natives nearby. Only shaman are allowed to be there. And they say you get possessed by either a good or bad spirit if you go there. There is also a publicly known, partially underground military base close by. They say they store a napalm there. Do they even use that anymore? The most interesting detail is that there is a publicly known ape testing lab out there. It's been there for at least 40 years, and we grew up calling it the monkey farm. They used to have chimps in the outside cages that you could see if you got close to the fence. Even a friend's mom that grew up in the area said a gorilla got loose a long time ago. Now I wonder if it really was a gorilla. One day we found the oasis exploring on our dirt bikes. We were in 7th or 8th grade at the time, and as we were walking down to the pond, we heard what sounded like an electric alarm. We searched around to try to find the source, but couldn't find it. My friend Casey and I discussed if it could have been a cow or a frog, but nothing added up. I've heard that again in the countless times I've been there. It wasn't until your channel When a guy said he heard the same thing near a mine in the middle of nowhere, then I put two and two together. I think they can mimic sounds and were either warning others or trying to scare us out of there. Around 10 years later and 6 years ago, a friend and I went catfishing there late at night. This place always had what you call pressure there, but mostly at night. It felt like you couldn't even relax or have your guard down. Maybe an hour into it, we heard the infamous boulder splash. At first we assumed it was a person, so we shined our lights everywhere and shouted that we have a gun and F off. We seen and heard nothing. 10 minutes later the same thing happened. Those were boulders. If you could have thrown, you would have to be by the pond's edge to even get close. But there was nothing at the edge and we never heard a thing. My friend, who I won't mention, was visibly scared. A grown man in his late 20s that grew up on a farm. I would have stayed, but my friend wanted to leave, and I didn't argue. On the walk back to the truck I said, I heard Bigfoot do that. All my friend said was, I don't want to talk about it. So I kept it at that. Once we got into the truck and started driving, 3 res cops blew past us and the 4th stopped. He questioned us and I told him about the rock throwing. He then asked if they said anything back to us when we yelled at whoever did it. It was almost like he knew what we were talking about. He did. That was the only time I've seen res cops out there, and there were 4. The area wasn't reservation, but it was really close. Maybe they knew what was going on. Months later, I went there by myself to fish. Right as I landed a huge largemouth, I heard the huge splash. It was the same as the last time. It wasn't a beaver tail smack, more like a huge kaplunk. It sent a shiver down my spine and my stomach to my throat. I didn't even look in the direction it came from. I just hiked out of there right away. I was unarmed for some reason, and I was so nervous, I called my good friend and neighbor Joe to meet me out there to escort me back. That was my experience. Nothing crazy, but I think the location is more important than the experience itself. I've also seen orbs high up in the sky doing impossible maneuvers in the same area. Definitely one of those areas where supernatural things happen. Some things that I would like to question. Do they scare people by slapping walls and in such order to harness that energy from us? Or are they simply entertaining themselves? Do they build the stick structures to obtain energy or a portal? Or is it just a boundary or a warning marker? If the people want to help this effed world, first you have to work on yourself. Don't let the evil powers win by being unhealthy, numb, distracted, or in denial of what's going on. If you want to learn more about the corruption of the world we live in, there's a good documentary called, quote, Thrive, end quote. It hits on the corrupt shadow government education system, pharmaceutical industry, our food, and the banks. It also covers sacred geometry, ETs, free energy, and ancient civilizations. It's over 10 years old, but information still true and useful today. You're truly an inspiration. The people and I are lucky to have you as a role model. You're a beacon of light in these dark times for me and so many people. Thanks for sharing my story, Jake. Jake, appreciate the kind words and the passing on the reference for something that may help us. Right? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. I haven't experienced the rock kerplunk yet. I've expected it. How many times? I've been steelhead fishing. I've taken you guys with me steelhead fishing, and more than a few times as the fish aren't biting, you're sitting there taking cast 500 with nothing happening, and you're just thinking about life and the world and mysteries and answers and questions, and I don't know how many times I have thought, okay, what are you going to do? What do you do if a great big curr or splash goes down right here, right now? And then I just stop myself from thinking about it because I don't want to. I feel if you do, how should I say this? I am convinced, and I've convinced myself of this a handful of years ago, that whatever thoughts you keep between your ears, they come true. I mean, maybe not down to absolute ridiculous thoughts, but you know what I mean. You think you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you think you can't do something, you can't do it. If you think you're going to do it, you do it. If you think you might be getting scared today out in the woods going up there, you're probably going to get scared. You know what I mean? But when it comes to these beings and what they can do with us and our minds, I am convinced that you can bring it on yourself. You can invite it by accident, by obsessing over it, or wondering what you do. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are agreeing with me. But I just try not to put much focus or energy on that topic in my head while I'm doing it. So if I'm fishing, and all of a sudden I quickly picture a monstrous boulder pushing in the pool beside me, I shake my head, quit it, and then I go back to thinking about something else. That's what I do. But it's hard not to, at times, imagine that happening, because it's a very, very strong pattern with people who spend time near or on water. It's always fresh water too, right? Not always, but 99% of the time it's fresh water. Probably because 90% of the population is inland, maybe, I don't know. No, that's not correct. 90% of the population is not inland, is it? No, it's not. Too many big cities on the coast. But I do have numerous saltwater ocean, Pacific Ocean experiences as well. So there you go. Babbling. Let's get reading. Let's get hearing more voices. Oh, I had a thought. Because you don't need to watch my ugly mug reading videos. So what I was thinking was, especially after droning, I wonder if I should set up the camera and let her rip for a good solid hour at various places without me in there, but I'll be there, and sharing all the voices. But I wonder if you guys would would you prefer to watch the timber, the forests, and mountains live, not quite live, but you know what I mean, unedited, uncut. I'll just set the camera up, I'll put it in a place where you can see lots of rock bluffs, timberline edge, whatever, mountain bowls, wherever I am. And instead of me being in front of this damn thing, I'll put you guys there where I am, and you guys can listen to all of the knowledge being shared. At the same time, you guys can just watch. I wonder if, I'll check out let me know in the comment section below in this video. Let me know if you would prefer that when I'm out. Would you guys prefer to be able to watch the view for an hour instead of me, but still hear the videos? Do you know what I mean? I think that would probably may be beneficial eventually. I have a funny feeling, because I do, for the most part, when I go out and when I stop and when I read and share in the wilds, I'm doing it where shit goes down. Just so you know. I might not have announced that officially, but that's what I do. I go where shit goes down. I think more for me when I do that, to make the statement that I belong to. I belong here too. I have my rightful place on the face of this frickin' land too. And I'm gonna do it when I want, where I want, respectfully. So I think I do that to make that statement, but as well, I guess there's that little devil on one shoulder that thinks, well, I mean, I know something's coming down the pipe eventually for me. Anyway, I know it is. It's just when and where. And who knows, maybe one day it'll be blatant in our face, caught on the camera, or intentionally brought to us via my camera. So let me know what you guys think of that, alright? It's titled Man of Men. Stevie, my friend, are a man of men. You have my deepest respect and admiration. The following is not my first experience, but the beginning of the end to my time in search and rescue. Alright, thank you for the kind words. And thank you for searching and rescuing. Big time. It's the spring of '76, and I was involved in the recovery of remains of the victims in the Ted Bundy serial murder case. No shit. The search areas were Tiger and Taylor Mountains, which have Highway 18 running between them and east of Issaquah, Washington. No way. At the end of the first day, after a short break, I was asked to go back out and set up another search grid. I loaded my string can with another 3-mile roll of string. I got my coordinates and headed out. The first 15 or so minutes went by uneventfully, and it wasn't too bad of a hike up the mountain so far. There was, though, a lot of Devil's Club, and I had to stay as straight as possible on my compass bearings so that shoulder-to-shoulder search teams would not have to keep stopping and shifting side to side the next morning. I came to a swamp and said, screw it, I'm not going through it. I tied a ribbon on my string on a vine maple branch that was high enough to see, hopefully, from the other side of the swamp. It took a while, but I made it around the swamp, where I could get an accurate back azimuth on the ribbon I tied earlier. After placing out the ribbon and attaching my string, I decided to take a break and have some water and see if I had anything left to eat in my pack. Digging through my pack, out of nowhere, came an overwhelming assault of fear. I convinced myself that I was just being a weenie, shoved the stuff back in my pack, and put it on, and then just stood there, not able to take that first step forward. Just a side note, I had previous encounters on searches before. You put a bunch of people and vehicles all over the woods, then send a person out by themselves to God knows where by their lonesome, and crap happens. Sorry, it's got a horse staring at me in the window. I made the mistake previously on a search when asked, "What the hell happened to you?" I explained that I'd been screamed at and ran out of the woods by a hairy man. I became the laughing stock of our unit, and word got out to the other SAR groups. Back to the story. In the back of my mind, before starting the compass grid, I thought this could be a setup. Now here I am standing on the side of Taylor Mountain with the feeling that all the strength has been sapped out of me. I take 3 steps, and all of a sudden, about 30 feet in front of me at the edge of the thick timber, 2 alder trees growing in a V shape start shaking vigorously. Little branches and some leaves were breaking and falling. I was terrified and pissed at the same time. I yelled something like, "That's not effing funny." I expected to hear whoever did it to bust out laughing and walk out and show themselves. Nothing but silence. I called whoever it was an asshole and started forward again. Instantly those same 2 trees started swaying to and fro where I thought the tops were going to snap right off of them. I thought the tops were going to snap right off of them. They were actually crossing each other and branches and crap were falling. The diameter of these trees was 10-11 inches at my eye's height. In my mind, there is no way any human could have pulled this off. I think I had lost some time on my retreat as I left there, I think I had some lost time on my retreat as I left there, like just maybe a monster was going to pull off a drumstick and eat me. I did not remember much of my retreat out there. When I reached Highway 18, I had a bit of a hike back to base camp and I was a mess. My boots were making a disgusting sloshing sound and I was soaked. I had also lost my favorite baseball cap. I really just wanted to fall over into the brush on the side of the highway and pass out. I dreaded going back to camp as I thought that the whole gang was going to taunt me for being ran out of the woods again. But nothing happened. The atmosphere was business as usual. I went to my tent and collapsed. Funny thing, nobody while searching shoulder to shoulder the next day. One more time. Funny thing, nobody while searching shoulder to shoulder the next day found my bright red Kenworth cap. I was asked, though, about the crazy and not quite long enough string grid. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to speak smooth. I'm really melting right now, too. Steve, thanks for everything you do, and I hope this wasn't too hard to read. I'll wait and see if you get the chance to share this before I send in more of my encounters with the big guy. I'm sorry, but I thought this would feel good to start the process of telling my experiences. It was rather difficult, and I kind of dread rehashing the ones I haven't shared yet. I really appreciate what you're doing. God bless you, Steve Isdall, and everyone at the round table. OMR Jordan, Old Man River. Jordan, absolutely appreciate it. You left us hanging. We want to hear it all, man. We want to hear it. Every second of it. And I understand that it is difficult for a lot of people to share it. But what else are you going to do with it? All right? Please, if you would, one day, hopefully you're still here watching the channel, but please share your knowledge with us, okay, man? Please. There's a lot of us that are absolutely thirsty for the knowledge. No matter how crazy you may think it sounds, all right? We got your back. Here's another one. Stole my deer. 3 Sabe encounters from down east Maine. Hi Steve, my name is Jeffrey Robichaud. Sorry. I've been a woodsman my whole life, starting with Cub Scouts. I'm 64 now and still spend as many days as I can in the woods. My first encounter happened first day of deer season, 1984. No. Okay, 0 punctuation. Here we go. In 1984, I had scouting a sweet spot on the blueberry field at the end of the Canal Road in Whitneyville, Maine. I got up at 3 a.m., jumped in my truck with my 45-70 single-shot Harrington and Richardson 22-inch barrel. Sweet little brush gun. I don't like to chase deer, and this load usually drops them quick. I got to my spot. A big birch dropped by a storm on the edge of the blueberry field about a half an hour before sunrise. 3 beautiful does with some young ones came over the ridge onto the field. There's an old apple orchard adjacent to the blueberry field that frequent regularly. 15 minutes later, the big buck had been scouting appears on the top of the ridge, just frickin' perfect. I take aim, I let her rip. The buck jumps and falls backwards over the ridge. And usually don't go for far, couple steps at most. Well, when I got to the ridge expecting to see my buck laying down on the other side, nope. Lots of blood, no buck. Damn, I know I made a clean shot. I would never pull the trigger otherwise. I began to doubt myself, not good, and began tracking first blood. Okay, don't forget, there's no punctuation. I began tracking. First blood I find is on the ground. Second blood was on some brush. They're foot high. Damn, I think I might have made a bad shot. And he's running. Next blood I found was eye level. I'm 5'4". Okay, maybe he jumped, then I can't find any sign. What the F? This can't be. This can't be. I hear a wood crack. Hell yeah, I think I got him now. Walking towards the sound, I find blood on the ground, and blood about 7 feet high on a 6-inch tree with the top snapped off. About the 10-foot mark. I'm beside myself. What the hell is going on? I hollered. Friggin' A. And immediately I hear something running through the brush. I wait a country minute and begin to track. Figured I'd find him shortly. Nope. No deer, nowhere. No tracks, no blood. I'm confused. Then I smell a skunky smell. Real sour. Then a tree snapped 20 yards to my back, and I turn to see a 6-inch tree snapped off 10 feet high. And again I hear something running through the brush. What the F is going on? The same shit happened there more times. I never found my deer, and for the first time in my life, I'm lost. Somehow, I lost my lapel compass chasing that deer. I finally gave up, feeling defeated for the first time in my life. I start backtracking my trail and I noticed blood stains, 7 to 9 foot high. It was a long walk out the next day. I took my dog to look for that buck. We never found him. What do you think happened? I believe I know now. Number 2, camping at Rocky Lake. Number 19, Township Pebbles, flying into camps. We were packing out. There wasn't a human within 10 miles of us, LOL. Number 3, the lady went to get camp set up for the summer on Bog Lake, Northfield, Maine that night. They had something slap the camp wall so frickin' hard the whole camp shook. Thanks to you for all you do. I've been following you since day one of Howtohunt, and I'm so glad you came about the Sabe. Rule your world, brother. Live large, love always. You too, man. Hope I didn't butcher that too much. That's one of my worst nightmares, is having my game animal stolen like that. That would suck, because of the effort that I put in and the animals that I single out, I usually go after them for a long time. Helicopter out there. Not coming here though. You imagine if, the other night Sarah said there's a helicopter in the middle of the night over the house. What the hell? Sounded like it was landing in the yard, she said. Wouldn't that be bizarre if some of that shit went down right now and we got the camera on it? Whoever it would have, maybe, might have been, whatever. But anyway, stealing game. I've had moose and elk stolen from grizzly bears, and that pissed me off, so I stole them back. Stole them back. I've had, I think a cat came and grabbed one of my deer that I left. Cleaned it all out, but I had to go get a pack frame. So I left it there and I came back and something had dragged the deer a ways and licked out the chest and ate the liver and the heart, but left the deer. Pretty sure it was a cat. But that would really piss me off, the effort that I put in, the money it takes, well, lots of us, to go get that meat. And then somebody just goes and grabs it. But I think I probably would have turned around and left the first time I saw the blood hit 7 feet up. Myself. You already know what it was, man. You know what it was. We know what it was. Okay, what's this? This is... Okay, let me mark this as red. There's a picture coming up, but it sounds odd. Here we go. Listen to this. Stick Indian pick. Hey Steve, Adrian again. Just was listening to the latest video about Mr. Ash's diaries, and the man mentioned little people in the beginning. And that reminded me that I wanted to send you a picture of a stick Indian. That's what we call them anyway. I'm going to send you the picture without me pointing it out. And we will see if you and all the people of the round table of knowledge can see it. If you want the backstory on the pic, I can send it in another time, trying to keep it short. I will send a copy pointing it out in the second and third pictures attached if you still view them out of order. Oh well, shit happens. Keep up the good work, and I can't wait for the information coming from Edgar and his peers. Remember to try to see it before looking at the one. Remember to try to see it before looking at the one pointing it out. Okay, this is all I got. I got this one photo. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people with their faces blacked out in front of a huge cedar stump. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for. Alright, zoom up. Starting on the right. I'm looking at the top of the stump, down the trunk, between people. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for. Alright, now, there's 2 items. 3. There's all sorts of weird things that you can make into the shape of a face that I'm seeing. But I mean, what is that, right? I could probably take a picture of the forest right here. I got maple, cedar, fir, alders right here. I could probably take a picture right now, post it up, and we can start making face shapes, right? I'm not saying this is not an authentic photo of whatever it is you're trying to send us. But there's definitely some odd shapes. 1, 2 odd shapes. 2 for sure. Alright. I will circle what I think maybe 1, 2, 3 odd shapes that I'm seeing. Alright, I'm going to circle the 3 that I think I'm seeing. And then you didn't email me the photo that you're going to help us see what you want us to see. We're sharing with us, so send it away, man. Send me the photos so we can see what you are pointing us to. But that's all I can see is maybes of maybe that is a being standing there. That's a face on the stump. There's another face on the stump below it. Maybe, I don't know. Don't know. Can't wait for you to point it out, man. Alright, I gotta save that to my phone so I make sure I get it in the video. And we'll see what comes. Alright, here's another one. Now I'm starting to get into the last cast, right? One more cast. One more email. This is titled New Encounter. Hey Steve, it's been 90 days since I moved to the mountains of central Washington. About 30 days in, moved from the lower lands to avoid rattlesnakes. Haha. I did get bit. You did. Ew. But it didn't go get it through my boots and Carhartt. One night after turning in, something huge took a deep breath outside my tent. It seemed to hold the breath, and what I suspected was a huge finger pressed in on my tent wall, about 6 feet up. Slowly this, quote, finger, end quote, moved along the front, the east wall, from end to end. 6 feet up and 6.5 inches in. The finger was maybe 2+ inches around. It reminded me of a Nerf dart. The thing stopped at the end. It let the air out of its lungs with a deep rumbling sigh. The power and volume of its lungs were amazing. This was repeated on the south wall. There was no fear associated with this, but I couldn't move. That's interesting. No fear associated, but you're frozen. That's pretty interesting. That was repeated on the south wall. Okay, sorry, just read that. Not even to grab my rifle. There were no tracks other than smashed grass. The noise it made left no doubt about the size. It was huge. This is in central Washington. Nasty Creek, Watanum Game Management Area. Thanks for all you do, and it reminded me of who and what I am. Well, you're an honest, brave human being, man, and a member of the Club of No Return. That's a couple things for certain anyway. I don't need that going down outside my tent. Myself, I'm good. I know you guys are out there. Leave me alone. Don't come near my tent. And I can't help it. Me, personally, if something's pushing into my tent, it's going to get a lead pill. Just is. I'm not even going to try to be bashful about it. I will be certain it won't be a human where I am. Because I am only in a tent in the middle of absolute nowhere. 99% of the time it's either horseback or bush plane dropped off, and there is no human beings there. And if you are a human being, you know it would be absolute suicide to sneak in on a remote tent camp and start pushing on the wall of the tent, trying to scare the heat-packing hunter inside the tent. Nobody does that. And if you approach it, if a human being approaches a camp, you always speak out, yell out. Always. So, any of you Nancys out there getting your panties in a knot just because I said I'm throwing a lead pill out towards something that's pushing into my tent, well, guess what? Where I go, it is chocked full of grizzly bears and black bears that are as smart as a pickle and commonly prey on human beings. So, that's why I say, for me, where I camp in a tent, and I'm not saying don't do this in a public area where there's people camping all over the place. That'd be absolutely ridiculous. I guess I better add that in there, right? But when if I'm in a tent remote in the middle of frickin' nowhere, and you guys seen where I go, and something's pushing in on my tent wall, it's going to get it. Furthermore, my tent's going to be really, really small. So it's going to be a very small, up close and very small. It's going to be a very up close and personal exchange. If something's pushing on my tent, it's going to come in about this far to touch my body. And you have to react and think fast to preserve life. And if I am in my little taco tent in the middle of nowhere and something's pushing on the side, I don't have time. I don't have time for much but to hopefully try to get the barrel of my gun in the right direction somehow before the deal gets sealed from the other end of the encounter, right? Anyways, I'm babbling. I must be really, really tired. Actually, I know I am really tired. Try to keep my mouth shut, and I'm going to do one more cast. What do we got? What do we got? Trying to find one that isn't a mile long. Or about other... Yeah, here's another one going on about the... I get lots of that, and I do not try to tell people not to send me that information. I want all information. So I got to be careful what I share here. Alright, here we go. What's this? Oklahoma and Texas Sasquatch. The title of this one. Alright, this is rad. Hey Steve, been following your channel for a while and have great respect for the work you're doing. It's been very powerful to hear others' anecdotal experiences with these beings. I recently came across one of your videos regarding a 3-letter agency source with seemingly dubious stories. It piqued my interest as he mentioned the cannibalistic nature of the Sabe in Texas and Oklahoma. I'm from Texas and heard similar stories firsthand from family living in the piney woods and anecdotes from pioneer family stories who settled in the Texas frontier well before it was even a state. The common thread has been the violent nature of this particular species or subgroup of Sabe in this neck of the woods. Although some of that 3-letter agency Sasquatch hunter stories did in fact appear to be of the keyboard warrior nature. I'm sending you a video that I've thoroughly vetted for its authenticity concerning a battle between Choctaw Indians and the predatory Bigfoot in eastern Oklahoma. I'll contact relatives and friends with first or second-hand stories of Texas Sabe in the near future as well, and send you the stories to share as I haven't heard any on your channel originating in Texas. Check this out, tell me what you think. Okay, and it's just the YouTube thing without any
folks who can't read small.
Hold on a minute. Name on it. Okay, I don't know who this channel is. I haven't a clue. I don't do any promoting. And I'll have a look. I'll have a listen. I'll have a listen if I think it's worthy. I can't do it right now, but if I think it is worthy, I'll share it up. If I think it's going to help everyone, I'll share it up, okay? Alright. Thanks for sending that in, man. Oklahoma, Texas, there's no shortage going on down there. None. What's this one? I can't even go one more. One more. California, Sierra Nevada's encounter. Hey there, Steve. First off, I want to say thank you for doing all you're doing in this topic. It's nice to have such a credible professional person finally publicly speak truths on this topic. Thanks for the kind words. Excuse me. Okay, my name is Jade Ball. I was born and raised in the Sierra Nevadas in a place called Shaver Lake, California, at about 6,000 feet elevation, just south of Yosemite. Living in high elevation mountains is a lifelong necessity to cut firewood to survive. In my mountain range, we have a prized pine wood that only grows above 8,000 feet called tamarack. We got tamarack up here. So during the summer, a buddy and I would make our trips up the mountain to collect our firewood for the coming winter. Usually we'd go to a remote area called Sample Meadow. When we were finished for the day, we would grab a couple of beers and hike to a close-by creek to cool off and explore around before heading home. This afternoon in 2004, we walked to the other side of this ridge and found a small creek. We sat down leaning on a couple of trees and drank a couple of beers while cooling off. We heard what sounded like a person walking close by. We both looked at each other, then looked towards the sound. About 50 yards away was a Sasquatch, about 6 feet tall, walking towards us like it hadn't noticed we were there. I instantly was scared, but didn't feel threatened at that point. We both were just frozen, looking at this thing. At about 35 yards away, it finally noticed us. It looked right at us, but didn't seem surprised or startled at all. For some reason, my buddy and I both sat down, not taking our eyes off this thing. We then heard a whistle up above us. The creature looked up the hill, then back at us. Then a whistle from below us. This sounded pretty close. It looked uphill, though again, then back, It looked uphill, though, again, then back at us. We're both just sitting there, frozen, pretty much in awe of what's happening. The one we're looking at made a clicking sound with its mouth and showed us its teeth, but it seemed in a playful, not threatening way, like a kid. What's crazy is it looked downhill and took a few steps downhill as we heard footsteps start to approach from uphill, which was behind us. That would suck. Why is this plane doing donuts over the frickin' house? Like it was taking our attention off their movements on purpose. About 20 yards to our right, a huge 8.5 to 9 foot tall monster was walking straight downhill right across the front of us towards the smaller one. As it walked by, it looked down at us. It made a deep, gruntled growl sound like saying, "Don't effing move." It met up with a small one. The big boy whistled again. The one below whistled back, and they both headed downhill towards that one. Right as they walked away, the big boy looked back at us one more time and shook his head like, what's up, as to saying, "You guys are good to go now." It was the most amazing experience I've ever had, but terrifying. Over the years in this area, I've always felt like we were being watched, but never seen anything until this day. My buddy and I finally stood up and promptly started back to the truck. All we're saying was, "Oh my God, what the F, let's go. Oh my God." On the ride home, we talked about the whole experience. I was saying how that was the one time I didn't have a gun with me when going on that walk in that area. Maybe that's a good thing. It might have been a whole different experience if I had. My buddy didn't want to tell anyone, so I respected his request until now, writing you. I told my father, but no one else. That's why I won't mention his name, but you can mention mine. I appreciate you and what you're doing. Thanks, Jade Ball. Ball? Ball. B-O-H-L. This encounter was in the Sample Meadow area above Huntington Lake, California. There you go. 2 more members of the Club of No Return, which is one hell of a big club. Sierra Nevadas. Shaver Lake. We've heard Shaver Lake here before, I know that. That rings an absolute bell. What a freaking experience, man. Picture that one, you guys. Picture being those dudes. Wow. I wonder how many days you go without thinking about that. But if you get a chance, send us your, if you can, because I'll bet you the image is absolutely tattooed into your eyeballs. Send us a detailed description of what you saw. What did this big dude look like? Break down to anything you can recall. Anything. Tell us exactly what you were looking at, alright? There's going to be a lot of people interested in that. Everything. How fast it moved, the stride, the height, the muscles, the hair color, hair on his face, gray skin, tan skin, black eyes, brown eyes, ears. I don't know what that sound was. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta go outside, see what's going on, and put the horses away. Make sure the goats are away. Get some sleep, and then get on with it and keep going forward. I could unload a whole pile of topics right now, but I'll keep my lips shut. Last night I went off fairly well, and YouTube censored the shit out of that video. Expectedly, right? Dirty bastards. Anyway, let's just leave on this note. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get it. That's where you get it heard. That's where you get it shared. And that's how you add knowledge to your community. Sharing it there. And many other places too. This isn't a bad place to share it. It's painless. It's free. We'll be back.